The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame have once again revealed themselves to be a sham, to be a popularity contest, and at this point, let's face it, just as legitimate as the WWE Hall of Fame. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the CG guy, Johnny Z here. Thanks so much for tuning back into the channel, and I'm here with you on this Wednesday night for a little bit of a bonus episode. I'm going to be reacting to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominees for 2022, as well as sharing some of my thoughts on the Rock Hall in general. So that being said, let's get right into the ballot with the 2022 nominees. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the sad state of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Here are your 2022 nominees on the ballot. Beck, Pat Benatar, Kate Bush, Devo, Duran Duran, Eminem, Eurythmics, Judas Priest, Fela Kuti, MC5, New York Dolls, Dolly Parton, Rage Against the Machine, Lionel Richie, Carly Simon, A Tribe Called Quest, and Dionne Warwick. That's your nominees. Those are the official bands on the ballot for the 2022 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And like I said at the top of the video, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame just beginning to really show its true colors here. A scam, a sham, just as legitimate as the WWE Hall of Fame is at this point, which is very much a what have you done for me lately kind of a Hall of Fame. You know, I just feel like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it's so watered down with a lot of these nonsense inductees like Dolly Parton, for God's sake, and Eminem. Eminem making the ballot over Iron Maiden. What a snub. Again, Maiden getting snubbed from the ballot, but at least Judas Priest did make the ballot. I'm very happy about that. I hope they get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but who knows with these people at this point. I think that would be a great step for metal if Priest actually got in, because, you know, there have been so few metal bands in the Hall of Fame, and a lot of bands that have gotten snubbed from even consideration in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, right? And I hope Priest gets in. It'd be very interesting. Would Priest be inducted in the current lineup, or would they be inducted with the classic lineup with KK Downing in the band? Will they pull a Kiss, and will KK and Rob Halford not want to perform together? Would they bury the hatchet for one performance at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? That would be very interesting, right? But at this point, it's not even a guarantee they'll get in, but all I could say is vote Priest, and I hope they do. I guess Pat Benatar is a good pick as well, right? I don't mind Pat Benatar. I saw her live a couple years ago. She's still very good live, and she has a lot of fun greatest hits, right? They played on the radio a lot, so I don't mind her, you know. I always thought Duran Duran was very overrated. They don't do anything for me. Eminem, speaking of overrated, I cannot believe he made the ballot over Maiden. That's, like, infuriating, and I hope he doesn't get in, but knowing these people, I'm sure he will. MC5 are cool. They've influenced a lot of bands that I love, a lot of rock and grunge, punk bands as well that I really like. So nothing bad to say about them. Same thing with the New York Dolls, right? I mean, they've influenced so many bands, so can't say anything bad about them. Rage Against the Machine are cool. I'm not the biggest Rage Against the Machine fan, but I'd much rather they go into the Hall of Fame over Dolly Parton or Lionel Richie or, you know, Eminem, for God's sake. So I just feel like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is branching out into all these different genres that they feel they need to do this, and it's completely unnecessary, especially when they refuse to branch out into metal, you know? It's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's no reason why we need to branch out into country and pop and, you know, avant-garde stuff. It's unnecessary, and I wish they wouldn't do it, you know? I mean, there are so many great rock bands that are in the Hall of Fame. It just waters it down to be including even on the ballot, to be nominating some people like Dolly Parton or Kate Bush, Devo, you know, Eurythmics. I looked into them. I actually was not too familiar with them. They're not very good, by the way. Not a big fan. But apparently they have not made an album since 1999. They've been radio silent for over 2 decades, which they're now just making the ballot, and I don't even know why. But person I keep going back to was Eminem. Eminem is just a horrendous pick, and like I said before, I'm sure he'll get in, and that'll be another rant video here on the channel. But, I mean, what a shame that Eminem is on the ballot and Iron Maiden isn't. But, you know, I'm focusing on Iron Maiden. I don't want to sound like a butthurt Maiden fan, but, I mean, there are a lot of great metal bands that get snubbed every year for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's how it is, and I wish it were different. I wish they wouldn't feel the need to branch out into all these different genres when metal is right in front of them, and it's very close to rock, right? A lot of great bands, even bands that are in the Hall of Fame, walk that line between rock and metal, right? And it's just very unfortunate that a lot of metal bands don't get consideration on the ballot. And, you know, Eminem does, and Duran Duran does, and, you know, Lionel Richie, Dolly Parton, A Tribe Called Quest, that aren't even rock bands, you know. But it is what it is. That is the sad state of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in this day and age, unfortunately. And, we very well could see coming sooner rather than later in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, right next to the Beatles and the Doors and Alice Cooper and all these other great bands, Eminem, Dolly Parton, Lionel Richie, Devo, and that's such a shame. But if I were to pick 5 here that I think would fit best in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I'm going to have to go with Judas Priest, obviously, number 1. I hope that they get in, really. Pat Benatar as well. I like Pat Benatar. Like I said, I saw her a few years ago. She's still very good, and a lot of fun stuff, so a lot of fun songs. So I hope Pat Benatar does get in. That would be cool. I have to go with MC5, New York Dolls, Rage Against the Machine as well, so that would round it out with 5. And, I think that's a solid 5. Obviously, it could be a lot better had some more bands not been snubbed, bands like Iron Maiden, for God's sakes, but it is what it is. Like I said, that's the state of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I think if those 5 get in, I'd be happy, but I'm sure Eminem will get in. If you want to be realistic, I'm sure Eminem will get in, assuming Dolly Parton has a chance of getting in, right? Same thing with Lionel Richie. I know Lionel Richie is a very respected musician, so there's a good chance that he'll get in. It's just, I just wish that more metal bands would get recognition. That's all I'm trying to say, and I'm babbling, but that's really what I want to say here. And the fact that it doesn't is just, it's very annoying to me. And this is a very unimpressive ballot, it is what it is, I guess, and hopefully those 5 that I mentioned get inducted over the other terrible entrants on this nominee ballot. So that wraps up this little rant here on the sad state of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as we near the 2022 inductions. And we have our nominees out finally, and it's a less than star-studded cast for me, but among them, I'm going to have to go with like Priest and Pat Benatar, right? New York Dolls, Rage Against the Machine, MC5 as some of my favorite picks, but I'm sure my favorites won't all be inducted, if any, which is very frustrating, but like I said, it is what it is. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel down below. We are only 10 away from 300 subs here on the channel. Turn on the bell for notifications to be notified of a new upload, and let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the 2022 nominees for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Do you agree with the ballot? Do you disagree? Who do you feel should have been on the ballot that got snubbed this year? And who do you want to see get in to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2022? Let me know all that good stuff down in the comments below. And until next time, it's the CD guy, Johnny Z, signing off. Take care, everybody.